My name is Bailey Lindgren.
Hey, nice to meet you. Where do you work?
I work at Pacers National Bullying Prevention Center here in Minneapolis.
What do you do?
Sure, so I work with schools and community groups and students to help support their bullying prevention efforts, and that's a national program that we have. So we work with schools and community groups all around the country. So we hear that a lot of it impacting a student's education. So not wanting to go to school because you're worried about what's going to happen. And even with cyberbullying, that can still make kids scared to go to school because you don't know who necessarily is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely impacts their education, being able to concentrate in school. It can cause things like stomach aches and headaches and maybe a lower self-esteem. So yes, definitely impacts the school and feeling safe about going to school.
Cyberbullying, like for the people who saw it, if like you don't know who saw it,
Yeah.
and then if they think that about you or something.
Yeah, exactly. Thinking that everyone in the whole school knows it about you, especially with some cyberbullying, if you're like saying someone's secret, right, or something that's private, then you feel like the whole school knows that about you. So that can make it a really scary environment. Most part, and sometimes it can be hard to detect the bullying that's happening. So one type is social bullying, which can be things like gossiping about someone or saying, if you want to be friends with her, you can't be friends with me. So as adults, that can be really hard to pick up on sometimes. And a lot of kids won't report it to an adult just because they feel like there'll be a tattletale or that it'll get worse. So I think for the most part, when teachers find out about it, they want to do something, but it can be hard if you don't necessarily know that it's happening. Because it can be a scary thing to go to an adult and tell them about it, especially if you feel like it's your fault. Worse or better, it's just a little bit different. So some of the things that make it different is it can happen 24/7. So rather than coming home from school and having it stop, it can happen anytime. It can happen day or night. It can also be anonymous, so you may not know who it is that's saying these things about you. And then it's also more public, so anyone can see it online. So there's some things that make it a little bit different, but a lot of times what we hear for kids is it's just as hurtful as regular bullying, like physical or emotional.
If I was bullied like online, I would feel like it would hurt more just because other people are saying it.
Yeah, it's for everyone to see, and it's permanent, right? So it's written up there on a Facebook wall or Twitter, so it's hard to get away from because it's just always up there. So students can bully for a lot of different reasons. It may be that they don't realize the behavior they're doing is hurting someone else. They may do it as a joke. They may do it because they're being bullied themselves. So there can be a lot of different reasons, but those are some of the main ones we hear about. And students trying to kind of gain power in a situation. So a lot of times it's a student that they feel like they have more power or control over, but really anyone can experience bullying. It can happen to a popular student, maybe someone that really likes school. It can happen to anyone. It can be maybe for your differences, but a lot of times it may be because you feel like you have more power. But it's important to know that anyone can go through bullying. It's not just one type of person. So it depends. Every state does have a law or a policy when it comes to bullying. So there are certain cases that they may get involved with, especially if it's physical or threats are being made, but it kind of depends on the situation and what type is going on. Yeah, I think it depends on the person. We hear that a lot from students, is that it really impacts how you feel about yourself. But there's some people after maybe the first or second time it happens, they start to feel that way. Whereas other people, it may take, 5 or 6 times before those feelings start to happen. So I think it kind of depends on the person and the type of self-esteem they may have before the bullying starts. But it definitely impacts the way that you feel about yourself, just because you start to think that those things are true, right? So if they say, oh, she's so ugly, you start to feel that way about yourself, so it can definitely impact that.
Bulliers, they don't always know what the person is going through.
Yeah, exactly. You never know what's happening on the inside and what they're maybe going through at home. So that's why it's really important to try and we really emphasize kindness to everyone and inclusion, because you never really know what someone might be going through. Never. So that's one of the main things we hear from kids, is they feel like it's their fault, especially if you're being bullied for maybe something about your appearance or your personality. But it's really important for kids to know it's never their fault and you don't deserve to be bullied.
Okay.
A lot of students will see bullying happening, but they don't really know what they can do about it. So it's important to know there's a lot of different steps you can take. One of the most important things you can do is to just support the person that's going through the bullying. So whether that's telling them you're not alone, or you don't deserve to be bullied, or maybe just sitting with them at lunch, that can be a really great thing to do. You could also tell an adult if you see it happening, or you could stand up to the person doing the bullying. But I know that's something that can be really intimidating. So just know there's a lot of different steps that you can take, whatever you feel safe and comfortable with. But just supporting the person and maybe inviting them to do something after school or at recess can be some kind of good steps to take. One thing that we really try and say is just to have a conversation about cyberbullying, and just as you talk about safety like in public, talk about safety online. So what are some good behaviors you can demonstrate, whether it's on Facebook, social media, just being on the internet in general, talking about the behaviors that they want to see, but then also reinforcing that if they go through cyberbullying, you won't necessarily take it away, but you'll help protect them. Because I think a lot of kids get scared to tell their parents about cyberbullying because they think it'll then be taken away. Yeah. So just setting up some guidelines beforehand can be a really good thing to do. We get a lot of messages from students that are going through bullying, that maybe are demonstrating the bullying behavior or see it. 1 in every 4 students will experience bullying, if that kind of gives perspective, but a lot of kids go to our websites and then will write in as well with questions. I think it's just important to know that there's a lot you can do regardless of being a student or a teacher or a parent or just a community member. It's really a role that everyone plays. So we have a lot of resources on our website that are really for anyone. We have a website for kids, a website for teens, and a website for parents. So there's a lot of resources out there, and there's a lot that people can do regarding bullying and creating safe schools.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.